If you've been following the AI space even a little bit, you already know things move at absolutely breakneck speed. But right now, we are sitting right at the edge of a fundamental shift in OpenAI's roadmap. We're literally moving away from the AI we've all gotten used to, that reactive tool that just sits there waiting for your command. And we're stepping into this entirely new era of proactive and, well, soon to be monetized assistance. So today, we're going to break down exactly what this means in this explainer. We're diving into the newly launched ChatGPT Pulse and the looming reality of in-chat advertising. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll cover the proactive AI shift. Then we'll take a look right inside the new Pulse feed, map out the current ChatGPT ecosystem, examine this coming era of ads, and finally, outline what developers absolutely must watch. Let me ask you something. Does your AI work for you while you sleep? I mean, up until now, the answer for pretty much everyone has been a hard no. The current interaction model of AI has this really massive limitation. It only works when you're actively typing into it. It literally just sits completely idle until you give it a task. But, as we're about to see, that specific limitation is exactly what OpenAI is targeting right now. Historically, we've basically been stuck in this old paradigm, reactive prompting. You know the drill. You type, you wait, you stare at a blinking cursor. But this new paradigm, proactive Pulse, it's completely asynchronous. It's doing background, overnight research while you're asleep, basically preparing these personalized feeds so they're ready for you the next day. It's honestly the difference between a tool you just use and an agent working the night shift on your behalf. Section 1, the proactive AI shift. So OpenAI's own stated philosophy really hits the nail on the head here. They recently announced, and I quote, "This is the first step toward a more useful ChatGPT that proactively brings you what you need." They are explicitly telling us that the chatbox interface, where you constantly have to think of the perfect prompt to get the right answer, is really just a stepping stone. The ultimate goal is an AI that actually anticipates your needs before you even ask. And so the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. For daily AI power users, treating the assistant as an ongoing background process represents a massive behavioral shift. You aren't just opening an app to ask a quick question anymore. Instead, you're letting an intelligent system run continuously alongside your digital life. It's a completely different mindset. Section 2, inside the Pulse feed. Now, to really understand Pulse, we have to look at what's actually feeding it, right? Like, how does it know what you need? Well, it synthesizes your past chat history and your direct feedback. But honestly, the real game changers here are the integrations. By connecting your Gmail and your Google Calendar, you're essentially feeding the system the exact context it needs to actually be proactive. And this brings us to a super vital technical concept you definitely need to grasp: asynchronous research. Now, this isn't just a quick web search while you watch a loading screen. This is a system operating entirely on your behalf, overnight. It completes these really complex synthesis and research tasks completely independent of an active user section. So all that heavy computational lifting, it's done offline, well before your alarm even goes off. So how do you actually interact with all this overnight research? Well, it surfaces through these topical visual cards on mobile that you can easily scan or expand. And notably, OpenAI actually tested this safely with college students through their ChatGPT Lab program. They've made sure all this content passes through strict safety filtering policies to avoid any harmful material. But at the end of the day, you ultimately decide what shows up. Section 3, the current ChatGPT ecosystem. Now, looking at the boundaries of the current ecosystem, notice the really crucial distinctions here. Both free and paid plans have access to the consumer user interface, but model selection and Pulse access, those are strictly walled off in the paid plans. Right now, Pulse is in preview specifically for pro users on mobile. Meanwhile, the API tier sits entirely separate. There's no consumer UI there, it's strictly for developers building their own applications. Within that consumer ecosystem, though, paid users can already build these really cool domain-specific assistants, what we know as custom GPTs. And the process is actually pretty straightforward. You just write custom instructions, upload specialized knowledge files, and configure actions to invoke external APIs. This is currently the go-to path for building highly tailored assistants without having to write code or even touch the separate developer API. Section 4, the coming era of ads. Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. While OpenAI is building out incredibly useful features like Pulse, they've also announced a massive commercialization shift. OpenAI is planning advertising integrations directly into the ChatGPT consumer interface. Now, while the exact mechanics haven't been published yet, this kind of structural change absolutely sets the stage for some very serious questions about how we trust the answers we receive. Think about the traditional Google search ad auction model for a second. Historically, larger advertisers just paid to crowd out competitors for visibility at the top of the page, right? You usually know what's an ad and what isn't. But with ChatGPT, that dynamic shifts to answer weighting. If an advertiser pays to integrate their product into a conversational answer, there is a very real risk of them influencing the generated text itself, rather than just buying a static banner at the top of your screen. And this introduces our core concern: ranking bias. This is a legitimate product risk that happens when a platform's algorithm favors content or generates an answer based on paid influence rather than objective relevance or accuracy. Just think about it for a second. When an AI is synthesizing your personal emails and your calendar to give you life advice, how that advice intersects with paid advertising is something the entire tech industry is watching extremely closely right now. Section 5. What developers must watch. So if you're building in this space, here is your developer watch list. First up, you've got to treat Pulse as a totally new interaction pattern. Asynchronous background research is absolutely going to become the new standard. Second, wait for some ad ranking transparency before building consumer-facing products that rely on ChatGPT's answers as a reference point. Third, track the divergence between the UI and the API. And finally, always keep those model restrictions in mind. Remember, free tier users don't even get to choose which model responds to them. The absolute biggest warning for developers is this: the API tier and the consumer UI are completely separate surfaces. This ad integration is squarely targeted at the consumer product, but you really must watch carefully to see if ad-influenced answer weighting eventually bleeds over into the underlying model behavior. Because what a developer pulls from the API could very soon look significantly different from what a consumer sees on their phone. Well, we have covered a whole lot today. From the incredible utility of having an AI literally research your daily life overnight, all the way to the highly complex realities of monetizing that exact same assistant. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When an AI assistant answers a question and advertisers pay to influence it, who are you really chatting with? Is it your personalized assistant, or is it just the highest bidder? It is a question that will absolutely define the next era of artificial intelligence. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you in the next one.